Here in part 3, I'd like to describe the sixth mass extinction event. It's happening right now. We call this the Anthropocene. Cene, because it's associated with the end of a period or the beginning of a new one. Anthro, because it's associated with humans. We are causing the sixth mass extinction on our planet. We can begin to quantify life under threat as a result of human activities. 79 mammals, 145 bird species, 36 amphibians, and 505 groups of insects are known to have gone extinct. Another 1,300 mammals, another 1,200 birds, nearly 2,000 amphibians, and almost 1,000 insect groups are in peril now because of human activities decreasing their abundances. We are responsible with the mass extinction, the sixth mass extinction, the Anthropocene, and it's because of an expansion of our activities into ecosystems, converting wild landscapes into agricultural zones. This night sky picture compiled from NASA gives you an idea of just exactly where people are located around the world. This photo is now about 10 years, but you can see how dominant the cities are in the eastern United States along the west coast, throughout Europe, South Africa, China, Japan, and over here in Brazil as well. So what do we know? The World Wildlife Fund has been conducting surveys for about the last 50 years. And we know that in the 40-year period between 1970 and 2012, there were great reductions in animal abundances. The LPI is a Living Planet Index. It's a measure of how many organisms have disappeared. And nearly 40% of all mammals have decreased in abundance in that 40-year period. A remarkable 40% in 4 decades. But even more scary is that nearly 80% of the frogs have disappeared. I remember as a child, there were frogs everywhere. Now when I go back to my childhood neighborhood, I rarely find a frog. Because of overfishing, we've now seen more than a third reduction in the fish populations and fish species globally. We are responsible for the decrease in this biological diversity. Nearly half of this 177 mammalian species that have been measured decreased in abundance between 1900 and 2015. That's true for all of the major continents, probably more so in Asia and Australia and Africa than for North and South America. But nevertheless, huge reductions in the abundances of mammal species throughout the world. Since the rise of human civilization, let's say for the last 10,000 years, what we've seen is a more than 80% reduction in the populations of wild animals. 80% reduction of marine mammals, about a 50% reduction in plants, and about a 15% reduction of all fish. We, by changing the habitat and by overusing resources, are responsible for the decrease in abundances and increasing scarcity of these groups. Based on fossil evidence, we believe that about 0.1% of a mammal species go extinct in a 500-year period. So about 0.2% of mammal species go extinct every 1,000 years. But since 1900, because of human activities, 35 mammals have died out. That's a rate 28 times higher than the background. So this is what we mean when we say the mass extinction event. Organisms are disappearing at a rate faster than you would expect by natural selection. Insects are not immune. Here's what has been described by entomologists as the windshield effect. That is, we have a negative impact on insect abundances simply by driving through them at 60 miles an hour. Here's data from Western Europe where they measured the biomass abundances of flying insects, 1989, and then back again in 2016. And what you see is that in each season, there's a great decrease in the abundances. And they calculate that about 75% decline in total flying insect biomass between 1989 and 2016. Now, that's a period of less than 30 years. The decrease in insect abundances has an effect on the food chain. Organisms that eat other organisms. So birds around the world eat about 400 to 500 million metric tons of beetles, flies, ants, moths, and so forth. And so there's been a decrease in their food resource availability. In addition, bats. A single bat can eat more than 1,000 mosquitoes every hour. So each night, a bat might eat 6,000 to 8,000 flying insects. Their food resource has gone down. And lastly, we depend on pollinators, and about 78 to 94% of the flowering plants require pollinators, and there's been a decrease in pollinator abundance because of our effect on the ecosystem.